the program. I am your captain for this 2-hour pleasure cruise where we are dedicated to the fight and the preservation of freedom regardless of that cost. Regardless of it. We don't care what the cost is. It's our freedom, damn it. It ain't cheap, but we can afford it. It's tyranny that we cannot afford. All right, you want to be a part of the program tonight? Don't be shy. We got a great guest coming on here tonight. My God. 646-716-7978, or you can join the Captain's chat room, and you know I'm getting better at it. I am getting better at it. And I will be monitoring it, so if you want to ask a question, I'll be more than happy to tell the guest. Not only that, if you want to ask a question, you want to call the program, you know the number. Let me give it again, 646-716-7978. I have been on the phone, literally. My God, I get up early this morning. I finally get a chance to watch a little football yesterday. My weekends are shot. I haven't had a second. I just don't have any time anymore. I don't have any time. I'm not complaining about it, but I am complaining about it because it's ridiculous. I should not have to spend this much time. There is no excuse for what the hell is going on in this country here today. There is no excuse for kidnapping kids. I don't care what, for whatever reason. But I can't ignore these people. I can't do that. My God, these people, they need help. And nobody else wants to help them. Well, I got no trouble helping somebody. If I have the ability to help you, I'm going to help you. That's just the way I am. If I've got something that you need, and if I can help you and assist you and guide you in any way, I'm going to give it to you. No questions asked. My problem is I'm sick and tired of it. I am sick and tired of these stories. I can't take any more of it. There's no excuse for these stories. Now, if we had one or two, okay, fine. We can deal with one or two stories at a time. We can deal with them. We can combat them. We can fight them. But these aren't one or two stories. These are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, at least in the tens of thousands. We have well over 400,000 children, Karen, in the United States. Well over that. Well over that. Now, how many of those that have been illegally taken? Well, I mean, those numbers, you could argue that forever. But the people that I talk to, the mothers that I talk to, these are real stories. And they've got the documentation to back it up. So it's not just hearsay. They have videos. They have audio. They have documentation. They have everything. These are real stories. None of this is hyperbole. These are real. Well, I get up this morning, and I'm thinking, okay, it's close to Christmas. I mean, you would think things would calm down. No. I haven't even had a shower yet this morning. I'm still in my frickin' pajamas, and that's not a joke. That is not a joke. I have been working all day, and I'm pissed. The stories that I have heard today, my God, I am fed up with this. But we do have a great guest coming on here tonight. Her name is Karen Maple. Her daughter is being drugged. She was taken away. Guess why she was taken away? Retaliation because the mother dared to homeschool her boys. And the state doesn't like it. See, the state, when you homeschool your children, they don't like that. Oh, no. You can't do that. Well, why? Well, because they don't get any money. Every one of these children that have been taken, either medical kidnapping or for whatever reason, why the DCF is involved in taking these kids, it's all about money. Money. That's what it all boils down to. Money? You really need that much money? Is money really that important to you? You've got to go out and you've got to steal a child? Are you out of your frickin' mind? But this happens. This goes on day after day after day after day. And what I've been through today, I can't take it. I'm going to lose it tonight. I'm going to frickin' lose it. My God in heaven. I was on the phone this weekend with this woman. And she's a good friend. She's come on this program a couple of times. She's lost all of her children. And she calls me. Look, these families, they call me. These people, these women, they call me. And I don't have a problem with it. I can't turn these people away. They need help. Again, you know how I am. If I've got something that you need or you want and that I can give you, if I can give it to you, I will give it to you. No questions asked. I'm just going to give it to you. Well, this woman calls me up, crying, literally. I mean, just completely upset. She's upset because one reason, they've taken her kids and they're not giving her an opportunity to get her children back. That has got her stressed out. And yes, when stress can absolutely 100% put medical conditions on you. They can make you very sick. Stress can make you very sick. It can upset your heart. It can upset your kidneys. It can upset your brain. It can upset your entire frickin' body, your entire being. This woman calls me up just a mess. Actually, she Facebooked me first, said, I need help. And I was in the middle of about 14,000 things at the time. And I felt bad that I couldn't get to her. Well, I finally get to her. This woman is a mess. Crying hysterically. I was on the phone with her for late. I was on the phone with her. I don't know how many hours I was on the phone with her. She was also upset because one of her other friends had texted her. She was on the bridge in New York City. Exactly what bridge, I don't know. And I tried finding out what bridge it was, and I thought maybe, if I could call a cop or something and, try to bring her down. She kept trying to get a hold of her. She said, I'm on top of the bridge. I can't take this anymore. And this is her friend is another woman that has been attacked by the DCF. And she can't get her children back. And that's what they do. They beat these women down. They beat them down and beat them down and beat them down until they are, yes, suicidal. And does that happen? Yes. I'm working with a girl right now. We're trying to find the actual numbers of parents that have committed suicide because their children have been taken away. And that is one story I am going to cover. That's an important story. They are beating these people down to nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, look, I got no trouble. If someone's going to call me up and they're upset, I'm going to console them. I'm going to try everything I can to help them. But the problem is I'm sick and tired of it. I'm sick and tired of this crap. This should not go on. You know me. You've listened to my show long enough. You know I have patience for no things that I should have patience for. I don't have any tolerance for things that I shouldn't have tolerance for. And kidnapping children for whatever reason is no excuse to be tolerant or patient. None. Well, finally, I don't know what time it was in the morning, but we finally got word that she finally did get a hold of her friend. And she was all right. This woman is a mess. An absolute mess. And they're making me a mess. And I can't take it anymore. I also was on the phone today. And we're going to get him on. His name is Dean Tong. Now, we do have our special guest. She's on here right now, Miss Maple. Now, Karen, hold on. I got a couple things to cover here, and we're going to get a hold of you. We're going to bring you on as soon as we can. But Dean Tong, had a long talk with him. I was on the phone with him for at least 2 hours. He is a forensic trial consultant and an expert witness. He's been everywhere, man. He's been published. He's been on Fox News. He's been on Dr. Phil. He's for over 30 years. This man, he was falsely accused of sexual abuse of his children. Well, he fought back, and he won. Now he's one of the leading consultants. He fights the CPS. He fights the police. He fights the judges. He fights the lawyers. He fights these people. Judges use him. Yeah, he is a little expensive. He does have an opportunity, though, for those that are what they call forma paupertas, which means you're poor, is all it means. And he does have a way for poor people to get in contact with him and to use him. However, you do need a real lawyer. That's the problem. There are no real lawyers out there that want to combat the CPS. Why? I don't know. Well, we're going to get him on. We're going to get him on next week, and we're going to cover that. We're going to cover the whys and the whats and the who knows and everything. If there's anybody who's knowledgeable about what's going on in this, it's him. Yes, I'm rather knowledgeable, but I'm nowhere near an expert. I'm just a loudmouth. I'm a bitcher and a complainer. But I bring people on. I bring the experts on to bring the truth out. That's all I'm about. I'm all about the truth. I don't care what the truth is. I just want to know what the truth is. Well, I do look forward to having him on after the holidays next week, Monday. He's written several books. Now, if you got a pen handy, you want to write these names down of these books and look them up. Don't Blame Me, Daddy is one of them. Some of these are out of print, but they're going to be coming back in print, pretty soon. Another one, Ashes to Ashes, Families to Dust. That title right there tells everything you need to know. Elusive Innocence, Survival Guide for the Falsely Accused. Now, that book right there, I want to get a hold of that book. But he's going to talk about that. He's going to talk about his 30-year career and what this man was talking about. I mean, this guy was able to, every law, he knows more than the lawyers. He's not a psychiatrist, but he knows more psychiatry than the psychiatrist. He's not a lawyer, but he knows more about the law than the lawyers. So we're going to bring him on. We're going to cover what he knows. He testifies as an expert witness. He's appeared on numerous radio talk shows, numerous television shows. He's been all over. His name is Dean Tong. You've probably seen him and didn't know that it was him. Well, when I watched some of his videos, I recognized him, and I went, oh, my God, that's him? This is the guy? Well, we're going to bring him on. I look very forward to bringing him on. Look, I'm one of these guys. I'm not stopping until every one of these bastards are in jail where they belong. And I mean it. I'm not going to give up. I can't give up. These are crimes against humanity, plain and simple. This is an American problem. It's going to take Americans to solve the problem. And if you don't want to help in solving the problem, guess what? You are going to be the next victim. Yeah, that's right. They don't care who you are. They don't care what your color is. They don't care what your religion is. They don't care how much money you make. You cannot take your child into an emergency room today. You can't take your child even into a school today. Remember Melissa Willis? Couldn't even take her children to school. They took her children away because she dared to argue with the teacher. More than likely because the teacher wasn't doing their job. Look, when you have autistic children, they're not like regular children. Autistic children, as far as I'm concerned, should not be in public schools, but they are. And if they are going to be in public schools, they need to be in another classroom where they can have their special needs dealt with. Autistic kids, a lot of them. Some of them can deal with other kids. Some of them can't. Most of them can't. So when a public school gets a hold of an autistic child, they don't know what the hell to do. So when the mother says, "Look, this is how you got to treat my child," and the school teacher doesn't like it, and they call CPS and complain, guess what? CPS takes the kids. Story after story after story after story, and they're all the same. They're all the same. All right. We've got to get our guest on here because I can go on for hours, and I'm going to lose my mind tonight. I swear to God. The stories that I've heard today, all day long, I have literally been on the phone all day long. I got up at 7 o'clock this morning. I go on Facebook. My God, the amount of messages that I had. It was ridiculous. Absolutely insane. And again, I still haven't had a chance to take a shower. I'm still in my pajamas right now. Here it is. What time is it right now? It's 8:18. Oh, my God. This is what I'm talking about. We can't have this. There's no excuse for any of this going on. None of it. No excuse for this. All right, let's bring our guest on here now. Hello, my dear Karen. Are you with me? Can you hear me?
Yep, I'm here.
All right, I'm about to lose my mind here tonight. And when I heard your story, I swear to God, I mean, your story is so complex. It is so confusing. And it's absolutely bizarre of what they're doing. And when you sent me the stuff that you sent me, I read it out, and I figured out exactly what it was. This is retaliation. Because you dared to take your children out of public school because they couldn't handle your children, and you homeschooled them, and you took them from below average to above average, and they didn't like it. Why? Because they weren't getting any money because your children weren't in the public school system, and they weren't getting any money, so they're retaliating. And they're punishing your daughter because of you. Now, that's just absolutely sick. So, okay. Now, So the listeners know a little bit about you and who you are. Let's start at the very beginning. Now, your children, you're a single mom, and you've got your children. The father left. You got a divorce, and here you are. You're stuck with two boys on your own, and you're doing the best you can. Now, I know what it's like to be raised by a single mom, right? And it's a lot of work. It is a lot of work for one mother. And my mother raised three boys on her own. Now we were a handful. Looking back, I mean, look, we were a handful. We're boys. Boys are going to be boys, just the way it is. So here it is. You've got. Let's start at the very beginning when you got into an argument with the school teacher. Now, what exactly happened? Now, your child was disciplinary. For whatever reason, he didn't want to be in school, and he would leave the classroom and climb up a tree. Let's start there.
Tree, because he said that there was a kid that was beating him up. So he would go up the tree, and he would stay up the tree all day.
Right.
And they got mad because they couldn't get a hold of me because I went shopping to get him out of the tree. So somebody had to sit at at a picnic table near the tree while my son's up in the tree. So they wanted me to come to the school to be with him so that, he stayed in the school. Of course, he had taken off and come home one day, and the cops were at my house, and he wouldn't let the cops in the house. And I'm like, because he's not allowed to let strangers in. And they're like, well, we're cops. And I'm like, you're a stranger. And so anyways, they wanted me to stay at the school with him during the days. And it just so happens my fly was down, and all the kids started laughing. And I guess the principal took it the wrong way. And that's how that started.
Like he thought that you walked into the school with your fly down on purpose. So now you said something about the principal. He pushed you or shoved you or he did something with you. What was the deal with that?
He shoved me, and at that point, all I wanted to do was get my kids out of there. Like my kids weren't going to stay.
Well, you should have called the cops on him.
Huh?
That's assault.
They called the cops on me.
They called he shoves you, and they call the cops on you. Okay, yeah, I see.
I got arrested at the store, and they took my 14-year-old son and had him on the ground, and they were roughing him up. Some cops were on him. Somebody came, told him to stop, and they told her to get away.
All this because your son, for whatever reason, didn't want to be in school and wanted to climb a tree.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I ended up homeschooling.
Well, I did read. You sent me a lot of stuff, and I haven't had a chance to read everything. Like I said, I've been on the phone all day with mothers just like you.
4 milk crates of it.
And they had. Let me see if I can even find that here. But you homeschooled him, and their scores, now if I read it correctly, they went from below average to above average, and you were tested correctly. Not only your child, but you were tested as well too, right?
He was tested 3 times with the Stanford Achievement Test. I don't have to be tested in Vermont to school my children, and I went to the Supreme Court and won the right to homeschool my child and custody back of him, and he's now a college student.
Wow. Now, it's not against the law to homeschool your child. I don't know why that. Well, they don't like that, and again, it's all about money. It has nothing to do with the educational process. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with they want the federal dollars. They want the money. They want the money. That's it. So your kid went from, now, what is he studying in college? Is he getting good grades now?
Science and math and women.
Well, he's in college. Of course he's got to study women. But, well, that's good. That means he's healthy. That means he's normal.
Well, he's 30 years old now, so he likes college.
All right. Now let's get into how your daughter was. I call it abducted because that's exactly what it is. She's in captivity. She's held prisoner.
Yeah.
Now, how long has she been held, and what led up to that? Why did they even come in contact with you to take away your daughter? And your sons were out of the house at the time they took away your daughter, correct? Both of your sons?
No, my sons live with me.
Okay. So how long has she been held in captivity now?
1 year and 18 days.
Okay. So why did
I took her to the hospital? I thought she was having an anxiety attack.
Right.
And when I got to the hospital, they treated me like I did something to my daughter. And
her anxiety attack. What was she doing that led you to think that she was having an anxiety attack?
She afraid someone was going to come take her away, and she saw a ghost.
Okay.
So,
now, we talked about this earlier. Now, I've hallucinated before, and I don't remember, but my mother talked about it. Mm-hmm. And anybody can hallucinate for a lot of different reasons. Your body can make you hallucinate for several different reasons. You get a concussion, you can hallucinate. You get sick. You get sick enough, you can hallucinate. You can hallucinate for anything. Say you eat something that doesn't go in your body right. Sometimes you have an allergic reaction to certain foods that can cause you to hallucinate. It can turn, some drugs, some foods can actually be hallucinogenic drugs to the human body. It's just the way it is. I didn't design the human body. I just know how it works. So just because you're hallucinating doesn't necessarily mean that you are a crazy, insane freak that needs a lobotomy and a straitjacket and thrown in a rubber room. So you take your daughter into the hospital, and you say, I need help. Now, did they give her any help? Did they give her? Did they do anything? What did they do to her? And again,
they wanted to know if she's somebody harmed her or molested her, and if she felt safe at home was the first thing they started asking her. And she's like, no, why are you asking me these questions? And they tried to get me out of the room. And then I had to go to the restroom, and when I came back, she wasn't in the room, and I found her in another room where there was cameras and glass windows and security guard, and they had stripped her down and gave her a shower and changed her clothes, and they drugged her. So when I got in that room, she was just kept repeating herself over and over and over again.
Wow. What was the drug? Do you know what drug it was? I mean, it could have been anything, but
it's one that I've went online, and it says it's a one that can really knock you one. I can't think of the name of it at this time, but it's quite a drug.
So how long was she in the hospital before they took custody of her and brought her to?
That time, I took her to a different hospital than the county I live in. So DCF didn't take her, and she went down to the retreat, the mental facility, and she was there for 7 days. And then they let her go home. They said the problem was a dysfunctional family, and they gave me one pill, and I couldn't get the medication for her because Medicaid wouldn't cover it. I had to wait 4 or 5 days to get the medication for her. I tried to get help to get the medication for her. I ended up taking her back to the hospital in the county I live in, and what they said to me was put her in jail for the weekend. And I'm like, no.
Wait a minute. They were going to put your daughter in jail?
Yeah.
What was their excuse for putting her in jail? She's sick.
Well, they said, we'll straighten her out, and it's like, no, there's something wrong with my daughter. And they're like, well, you can sign her over to the state, and I'm like, no.
So
they said take her home.
I mean, that is insane. All right, so you get her home, and then when did CPS finally? When did they take her away?
About 2 weeks after this incident happened. They got somebody from this county that I live in contacted them, and they sent me a letter saying, look, you need to go get services for her, and we'll drop the case. And I was trying to get services for her. I was trying to get a psychiatrist. I finally got a hold of her pediatrician after I had her home for 11 days because they wouldn't see her. And then we went in to see the pediatrician, and she's like, well, I want to see where you're cutting. And I'm like, my daughter doesn't cut. And she goes, well, that's not what I hear. I want to see where she's cutting. And I say, my daughter doesn't cut. And then she says, well, she's going to have to go back to the mental hospital. And my daughter literally stepped out.
Excuse me, when you say cut, are you talking about where she cuts herself, like with a knife? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. My daughter didn't cut before she went there.
I mean, okay. So, when did they finally take custody of her? How did that happen?
It ended up being a whole month later, and I was trying to get her meds because they kept changing her meds. By that time, we found somebody that I thought was a psychiatrist, but it ended up being a nurse practitioner that was writing up these prescriptions for my daughter, and I'm like, you can't just take that one and write that one up and this and that, because it's like you put her on a medication, maybe it needs to go up on the dose or lower on the dose, not just, let's take that away and put her on this, or let's take that away and put her on this. So I went to the pharmacy to get her medication, and she was with me, and I'm like, you guys, her and my son, I said, you go back to the car. And I guess, she wanted to go see her friend that worked at a store, and I'm like, let's, try to get this med situation taken care of. And I guess she decided she was going to go say hi to her friend while I was trying to get the prescription. And my son was trying to get her, and I guess what happened was somebody thought he was trying to take her. So there was a scene, and the cops came and everything, and I said, and I, couldn't get the medication for her, and I just said, I need her to go I need her to go to the hospital because I need help getting this medication for her. And so that's how that happened. So they went to the hospital, and they did an investigation and talked to her, and then they turned around and shackled her and drove her 4.5 hours to the mental hospital. And she was terrified. She actually wrote a poem about how...
You mean they handcuffed her?
They used leather straps, and they strapped her. And then when she got down to the mental hospital, the psychiatrist down there was so out of it, she didn't even know who she was. She was in complete shock.
Girl. She's 16 years old, and she needs to be leather strapped. She wasn't violent, was she?
No, they said that's how they transport.
Oh, that's how they transport.
If she wanted to be in court, they had to transport her with handcuffs. And my sister went down to DCF and bawled her head off. So you can't do that to her.
Well, that's a crime right there. I mean, that's a crime right there. Right there's a crime.
Continuing traumatizing her.
Well, my God, yeah.
And then they took our visits away.
Oh, God. I mean, now, okay, now, tell me the story here now. You live on 10 acres of land.
Yes.
You suffer from MS. You're a single mom. I mean, you were abused by your husband. I mean, you can't have enough bad things to go wrong with you. Like, you need another one. So here you are, and judging by what, the conversation that we had here, you've done everything that you possibly could to make sure that your kids are growing up right. They've always been fed. They've always been clothed. And you made sure that they got an education. You took their education from below average to above average. And the only thing that you've got from that is being punished. You've got your daughter taken away from that. So tell me the story here now. I want to get into this. This really bothers me, what they did. And I'm an animal lover. I'm a huge animal lover. And obviously I think you are too, because you've got a million of them. Now tell us the story here now about your one dog, and what did they do? What did they do with the dog? Your dog had too many puppies, and what was the deal with that?
I had 72 dogs, but I had puppies, and we had a flood, or I don't know what you would want to call it, but it wiped out half our state. And so I had a litter of puppies that didn't sell, so they were 8 months old. And then I had 2 litters of little ones, and Emily lost a lot of weight because she had 13 puppies. And they came in with pepper spray and sprayed my premises. And they did not feed my dogs for the 10 hours. They carted me off to jail. My children watched. They wouldn't let them go in the house, open the windows, feed them, let Emily nurse her babies. One of my puppies died.
Why did they do that?
3-week-old puppies.
How did they even show up at your house? I mean, how did they know that your dog had too many puppies and they needed to come pepper?
The dog catcher wanted my dogs because he came up with a special truck just to get them, and the cops were yelling or got into an argument with the dog catcher that he wasn't taking them.
Well, what I'm trying to get at is, why was the dog catcher even there? Why was that even?
My dogs are worth like $2,000 to $5,000 a piece.
Yeah, but I mean, why would they show up? How did they know that your dogs had too many puppies? How did they? What was their reason for showing up, thinking that there was a problem with the animals that you had on your property?
Well, it seems a friend. Well, she ended up not being a friend, but they went to her house and they tried to get her pony because she wasn't taking care of it. And to save her own butt, she went after me. And the dog catcher was no secret.
So this was a neighbor
that
complained. This was a neighbor that complained, right?
There was no secret that I had the dogs because I sold puppies to pay for my animals that I had and kept and loved. So, and I would do 2 litters a year and, no problems. And then it just, and so they came, they raided, they said my puppies had worms and that's, 17 counts of animal cruelty. And I'm like, but that's why the veterinarian gives me worm medicine to worm the puppies. They have to be wormed every, 3 weeks and every, so many, so often before they actually get to be adopted out.
Well, look, I grew up in the country, and you live in Vermont, right? Yeah. And you live out in the country. Well, I grew out in the country, and in a rural area in Washington State. Yeah. And look, dogs are gonna get worms. It's just gonna happen. There's nothing you can do about it.
They're playing in mud, so it's like, and they came at a time where I was in the middle of doing chores. So, of course, I'm cleaning up after them and stuff. But they maced my premises. My daughter said that they dragged the dogs out of the house by their legs and put them in these tiny crates, and then they put them in a windowless truck and took them. And they used them to raise donations, and they auctioned them off.
So they basically, what they did was they stole your dogs, and they made money off of your dogs.
And they put me all over the newspaper and the internet, and it was horrible because they left 14 dogs, and one was pregnant. And it felt like we were empty. And we've had traumas, we've had deaths, and it seems like, these people have just never left us alone since I won in the Supreme Court.
Now let's talk about that. Let's talk about that from the very beginning, because I think that's important here. So the audience understands the retaliation here. Your daughter's being retaliated against because of what you did with your children, your 2 boys. Okay, boys are going to be a little disciplinary problems. I was a disciplinary problem. I was a pain in the ass.
Somehow they want my house too. They want me to walk away from it. I have no idea why.
Well, because they want to make money off of it. You've got 10 acres of property. It's private property, and they don't like that. See, private property to the government is, And, I mean, so do you still have your animals? You still have some animals, right?
I have 35.
Wow. And that's pretty much your living. You sell your animals? What kind of dogs are they? Oh.
No, I don't sell them anymore.
Okay.
I was actually getting ready to retire at that time, and I was just giving my puppies, my older ones, away for free. And I think the Humane Society didn't like that either, because money, they sell their dogs.
No, because they weren't making any money. You were giving some family, some child, a little puppy, so they could grow up and love it. The little ones, the ones I would sell. We got to punish you for giving a little child a puppy that's going to grow up to be their best friend they've ever had. And dogs are the best friend that you've ever had in your life. They are the most loyal. Plain and simple.
I adopted them out for $300 a month, and they were purebred Labradors. And
Labradors are, I mean, you can't get a more loyal dog, I don't think, than a Labrador. I mean, come on. I mean, just this story of yours, and we
And it
went on
was
for what?
horrible, and I think what saved us was the fact that Emily had puppies, and it just kept us going because we actually started raising the dogs when my sister died, and my sister had hung herself. So it was something that helped me and the children get up every morning and deal with our loss.
Now you had several deaths leading up to before your daughter was taken, and then we're gonna cover what's going on in the school that she's in. And I did some research today on this school, and I was trying to find some complaints about this school. I'm still looking at it, but there was, let me see, before that, when your girl was put into this home, this school is called Hillcrest Brookside ITU, which stands for Intensive Treatment Unit,
Yeah.
right? That's what it stands for, and that's in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Okay. When did they take her? Was that at the time that they took her away at the pharmacy that you were at? Did they take her immediately to there?
No, they took her to the mental ward, and because DCF took their sweet time trying to find placement for her, they kept her there for 3 months, except for the fact that the state called a hearing, and in the hearing it said that my daughter didn't need to be committed because she wasn't a danger to herself or others, and DCF took it upon themselves to get my daughter and drive her to Massachusetts within, I think it was the week before the hearing was to happen, that they deemed that she didn't need to be there.
Well, how can they take her from Vermont to Massachusetts? That's what I'd like to know.
I would like to know that, too, because what I heard is they actually have to have a court hearing to do it.
Well, yeah.
The same with drugging her.
For whatever state that you're in. And I'm still upset with the Michelle Ryder case, and I've asked her attorney, I've asked several other attorneys, and I've asked Dean Tong today. I said, how can and nobody seems to have the answer because they can just do whatever they want to.
It matter the state that they live in and then send them to someplace else. But I have noticed that when I call up Vermont, they're like, "Oh, we can't help you because she's in Massachusetts." When I call up Massachusetts, they say they can't help me because she's in custody in Vermont.
Right. See, this is
and
what I don't understand.
Out,
how can one state take a citizen of another state? How can one state take custody of another state? That's the same with Isaiah Ryder. He is a citizen of Missouri. He went to Chicago, visited Chicago, just visiting there to go to the doctor, and they took him and they took custody. Now he's custody of the state of Illinois. And the state of Missouri won't say anything. They won't do anything. Of course, these politicians they won't get involved because they're afraid they might lose the next election. That's what it's all about.
The judge ordered her back to Vermont, and DCF didn't comply.
You know, how many times have I heard that story where the judge says the child is to be returned to the parent, and the DCF says no and doesn't comply to the judge's orders, and the judge doesn't do anything about it? Now, what kind of a judge is going to give out an order and say this is the law, this is the way it is, and you have to comply? Well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to go rob a bank, and if the judge tells me I got to spend the next 10 years in jail, I'm going to say no, I don't have to comply. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, that doesn't even make any sense. And
they told the judge that she wasn't stable, and the judge is like, well, she's sitting in my courtroom. She's stable enough to be here. And then they said that her blood needed to be normal to come back to Vermont.
Her blood?
Her blood.
What do they mean by normal blood?
High levels of progesterone. She's turning into a man.
Well, that's the drugs that they're giving her. Yeah. Now, we had talked about this, and that just set me off today. I swear to God. And I bit my tongue. I was gonna, I'm a cusser. I'm an ex-sailor. I'm an ex-car salesman. So I got a foul mouth, and I did everything I can to keep my mouth. But I mean, when I heard what they were doing, of putting your daughter on hormone drugs, that doesn't even make any sense to me. I don't see any logic in that at all. They're turning your daughter into a man. She had facial hair. She had what? She started growing chest hair and bulking up and getting muscles.
And not having her periods.
And not having her periods. Yes, that is.
And
sick.
they were ignoring it. Would bring it up. They're like, "Well, we can do what we want. Why don't you just, butt out? She's in DCF custody."
Oh yeah, butt out. It's your daughter. Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, we've got everything under control.
They can do whatever, and it's the school and DCF is to make the decisions, and I have no rights, and Lissa has no rights. And now they took my visits away, and they're saying I can't have my visits back until I accept the fact that my daughter is really mentally ill and needs to be in an institution. Well,
it just sounds like I'm not a medical doctor, but judging by everything that I've talked to, with you, it just sounds like the girl was sick. She could have had a cold. She could have had this. She could have had something that was causing her to hallucinate. Maybe she ate something that disagreed with her. It could have been anything. Did they even bother to test why she had these hallucinations? Was it to test to find out if it was something that she allergic to, or?
I had asked for an MRI done from the beginning because she did get into her and her friend put the four-wheeler in gear. They didn't start it. They just kicked it into gear, and they had rolled down a hill and hit a tree, and Alyssa fell backwards. And so I had asked from the beginning if they could take her down to get an MRI done because I thought maybe that triggered something because that happened like 5 days before she started acting funny.
Right.
And so far that has never happened. They have never done that test.
Well, I hallucinated once when I was a kid. I got hit in the head with a baseball bat. I hit myself in the head with a baseball bat. We were playing baseball with a basketball. And I swung the bat as hard as I could, and it hit the basketball, and it bounced back, and the aluminum bat hit me right in the head. And blood was everywhere. I had a huge cut. I still got a scar on my eye from it. You can still see it. It's grown away, but you can still see it. But my mom talked about, me hallucinating, even several days afterwards.
Yeah.
And I was seeing my deceased father, and I don't remember it, but my mom, always told me about it. And that can happen. You fall down, you get a concussion, you can hallucinate. Anything can happen to cause you to hallucinate. Just because you're hallucinating does not mean that you're a mental patient. I mean, you don't have to be a doctor to understand this. And this is what really irritates me, is these doctors aren't doing the tests. They just see something, they see a way to make money off of a child, and that's all that they're doing, and that's exactly what they're doing. Now, the drugs that they've got your daughter on, she's been in captivity for a year now, right? Over a year and a half?
Yep.
Okay. Now, I've seen the videos of your daughter, and good for her. She's a brave girl, I got to say that. How did she make these videos? In the home that she's in?
No, I would go and pick her up, and we get to have 20-hour visits at a time, and she would have sleepovers with me. And there was no special rules. I didn't have to keep an eye on her. Didn't have to worry about her harming herself or anything like that. As long as I drugged her up at night, that was all they cared about, was as long as I gave her those drugs. And so I, in the 20 hours I had her, I could tell when the drug wore off, she was normal. She's my daughter. Until I had to give her the drug, or when I brought her back to their facility, then I noticed that she would be stressed, and she'll start. I've had times where she'll start rocking and say, "Mommy, I don't want to be here anymore. I can't take this anymore. I want to go home."
And they
made us so afraid that we're going to never see each other again because they keep, it's like they're not nice to us. And she
never had any issues before, right? She never had any issues whatsoever before.
No.
Before this incident, she never hallucinated before. Never. She was a normal girl, just a normal, average teenager
we were
girl.
doing some tests on thyroid issues because the women on my side and my father's side have thyroid problems. So she was in the middle of having tests done for thyroid. So we were working on that because she has a weight issue, and so at the time that this stuff was going on, I thought maybe it was her banging her her head or the thyroid, because hormones can go haywire, and so it's like
well, maybe again, I'm not a medical doctor, but maybe. I'm just throwing this out there, maybe that thyroid might have something to do with why maybe she hallucinated at that particular point. I mean, am I close?
Yeah. Even a vitamin D deficiency can cause you to hallucinate.
Absolutely.
And then put you on all these drugs that cause hallucinations and suicidal thoughts is like, I don't understand how they can actually help you to not hallucinate if they're causing hallucinations and suicidal thoughts. And then what happens if she wasn't hallucinating? Because there was a time where 4 months where, she wasn't having any hallucinations. But they said that she was because she just wanted to go home, so she was lying. And so they figured she just was lying because she wanted to go home and said she wasn't hallucinating. So what they did is they put her on clozapine, which is the last-ditch effort for schizophrenia, and they put her on 300 milligrams, and they took her off Seroquel at 500 milligrams cold turkey. And
but
put her on
you can't do that. You can't. First of all, you shouldn't be on these drugs at the very beginning. But once you get on these drugs, you can't get off of these drugs cold turkey.
And then on this drug, I got a letter. I don't know if you got the letter, but it said that this doctor didn't even recommend this drug for a child.
Right. I read part of that. The one doctor said no, it's a wrong drug. So how long has she been on this?
Decided to do it anyways, without my consent. They sent me a consent form. They emailed me a consent form, and I said I sent them an email back saying, look, I want more information. I'm not going to just agree to put my daughter on this drug without having more information. And then he says, well, we decided not to. And then they turn around and they did it anyways without my consent, without Lissa's consent. And at that time, I didn't even know that there was another doctor that said no, he didn't agree with it either. And we had been asking for a second opinion to have Lissa tested by a different doctor because they didn't actually diagnose her as being schizophrenia until she was locked up for 11 months, and then the doctor did it the day before going on the witness stand. He just says, oh, by the way, and my daughter's sitting in the room there, and I'm sitting in the room in the courthouse, and he says, oh, by the way, as of yesterday, I decided she's schizophrenia, and I would like to keep her for another 2 years or so because I would like to experiment with some other drugs to get rid of the hallucinations that he wasn't sure whether or not she had.
Yeah, but how many hallucinations did she really have? Just one.
When she would get stressed, when she went to court, she said that Mom.
No, I'm talking before they took her. She just had one hallucination, right?
It was like she be okay for 4 days, and then 4 days she would have some issues. So it wasn't like constant. It's like, but. When she's stressed, she's having some problems. And at the time when, we were dealing with at home, my son almost died in a car accident. Right. And he was in intensive care, and they came back with another raid on the dogs while he was in intensive care. So it was a lot of stress because my son was they were going to do a surgery on his lung to save his lung, and I have cops here, and I have people here, and they're like, well, we'll let you go to your son if you leave your daughter here and let us come on your premises and search your premises without a warrant.
Well,
and at that point, I was in no shape to go see my son. I was literally hyperventilating, and I locked the gate. And my daughter called Fox News and Channel 5 News and says, you better get here because my mom's in a standoff with the police. And so my son was in intensive care going to surgery on his lung, and I have these people at my house, and I can tell you, my house, I was so under stress that my house felt like it was a roller coaster. And at the 4-hour mark, I said, Lisa, I want you to go in the woods. I don't want you here when they come breaking through that gate. And, because we have chain link fenced in gate surrounding us. And so I sent my daughter through the back into the woods, and then around 5 hours, I said, I can't take being here to be slammed to the ground and be treated manhandled by these cops. So I left too, and apparently they got their warrant at 6 hours later, or 6 hours after they waited for it, and the warrant was only good if they served it to me. And they came onto the premises. I wasn't here, and they didn't find anything wrong. And what the Fox News guy said, it was something to do with there was a complaint because my chickens looked hungry.
Chickens looked hungry. Now I want to ask something here. How old was your son when he was in that accident?
29.
Okay, he was 29. Now, why would they show up to your house? Your son gets into an accident. Obviously, he's in critical condition. He needs to have surgery on his lung. Why the hell would they even bother to show up to your house?
Because he got into the accident a mile up the road, so they were well aware that he was in the accident.
Yeah, but I mean, so they show up to your house. Well, I guess I'm understanding why. I'm not understanding why they're.
Because they like to attack you when you're down. When my father died, my children knew they were going to come.
But what was their excuse for? Your son gets into an accident. He's in critical condition. He needs to have surgery on his lung. So why the hell would they show up to your house with and wanting to search the premises like you did it? I mean, you see what I'm saying? What was their reasoning for showing up to your house after your son was in an accident? I want to know their reasoning. I mean, it's not real, but I mean, what was their excuse?
They said to check on the animals, but when I let Fox News come in, he asked, can I come in? And I let him come in, and he came in, and he told me that they had a complaint from a neighbor about my chickens looked hungry, and they wanted to see if I had puppies.
Now, how the hell do you know what a chicken looks like when they're hungry?
I have no idea because I looked at them and I can't see a difference.
Well, I used to, my uncle had a lot of chickens, and you just throw feed out there and they just eat it. I mean, there's really not much to really do to a damn chicken.
Yeah, I think
you fed your chickens, right? I mean, it's not like you didn't feed them.
Well, I think what it is somebody knew he got into the accident, and the thing is, too, is I only was home for like 4 hours. I had come home for 4 hours to take a shower, get a change of clothes, and get my daughter and go right back to my son.
They have been attacking you ever since.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like, since you wanted to take your sons out of school and homeschool them, and that was because your son was climbing up a tree, and for whatever reason. I mean, look, kids are going to climb up trees. Kids are going to be disciplinary problems for, a whole host of reasons. It's just the way kids are. It's just the way it is, and teachers don't understand that. Adults, for whatever reason, don't understand that children are going to be children. And you have to accept the fact that not every kid is going to be this perfect little student that sits in the room and just simply absorbs everything that the teacher tries to indoctrinate into their head. They're just not going to do it.
Well, I found out I found out when I took him out of school and started schooling him that he's dyslexic, and so he learns in different ways. My older son can actually take a car apart and put it back together. He just has a hard time reading.
Right.
So,
my mom worked. She worked with special ed kids, and she worked with a lot of these crack babies. They call them crack babies, but these are babies that are born.
Yeah.
Their parents are born. The children are born when the parents are on drugs, and they're addicted to drugs and have no idea. So they're automatically going to have disciplinary problems. Mom also dealt with children that could not read, could not write, could barely tie their shoes, but you give them a math problem, and these kids, they can do calculus at 7 years old, and it's ridiculous.
Too, and he would go to bed with a calculator or put him in his car seat with a calculator.
Right.
And the kids, a math and science whiz, but, it just, my daughter, I didn't, when she was 2, I decided no more vaccinations. It's not good for her. She was a breastfed baby. They threw me in jail when she was 2 years old, and she didn't get to.
You just said something right there. You just said something right there.
Hand over my 15-year-old son if I want to nurse my baby. This is what this DCF woman said to me at the jail. Hand over my 15-year-old son if I want to nurse my baby because
now what the hell is that? That doesn't even make any sense. But you brought up something here right now: vaccination. Now I know there's a lot of complaints out there. There's a lot of research that hasn't been done, and there's a lot of people that have a lot of problems with the vaccinations.
Autism.
Right. There are a lot of links to these vaccination drugs that are linked to autism and other problems, not just autism. Now, these are not made up. These are direct links. And there are a lot of people out there that are just trying to get the real research out there. What are these vaccinations that are given to these kids? What are they really doing? Have they really tested these drugs? And I'm going to go ahead and say no, that they haven't tested these drugs. Because if they have, we wouldn't be talking right now. I'll tell you that right now. There are a lot of vaccination problems. And
little boys are getting autism, and little girls they're giving them that guard aid. It's like, let's give 11-year-old girl this vaccination to help with ovary cancer, yet she is not completely developed. And it's the same with my daughter.
Cancer. She doesn't even have any ovaries yet at 11.
Exactly. So it's like, what do they do? And they found out that there are issues and there's problems. And I did not give my daughter that. I said, you know what? I'm waiting to see how it goes down the line on, the after effect. And it's like, now, it's like they're giving my daughter heavy-duty antipsychotic drugs, and her brain is still developing until she's 22 years old.
At 17, you're not completely grown yet. And look, boys still are growing when they're in college. Some boys don't finish growing until they're like 20. Some of them are 24, 25 years old.
So it's like, I called my daughter up tonight, and she says, Mom, I don't feel good. My stomach hurts. I got a headache. I'm dizzy. This drug, makes me sick. I have to take it at night. I want to come home. When are you coming? I can't take it anymore. Every night we go through this.
Now you have contact with her, right?
I can't be there for my daughter.
You do have contact with her, though, right? You can call her up on the phone.
I call her every night after they drug her, and it's always a threat that they're going to end their calls.
And she can't go anywhere. She has to stay at this facility,
97 hours.
Right?
What?
She has to stay at this facility. She's not allowed to go anywhere unless she's like with you or some other kind of supervisor.
No, they won't let her be with me anymore because they put her on this drug, And I was having 97 hours a month where I could take her, and we would have sleepovers, and we were doing really good. And then they decided to do this trial drug anyways, whether or not she was hallucinating or not. And I went down to pick her up, and she got in my car, and she was only in my car for a few minutes, and she says, Mom, they said if I didn't take this drug, I wouldn't be able to have my visits with you. But she says, Mom, and she pulled her pants down, and she says, we ain't going to be able to have our visits anyways on this drug. And she was, her legs were all cut up, and her chest was cut up, and I don't know if you've seen the pictures, but she looked horrible with her,
how did you get these cuts?
She says, Mom, they give me this drug, and I black out, and I don't even know what's happening, and then I wake up with these cuts on, and she says, Mom, I'm hallucinating like crazy, and no one will listen to me. And so I didn't know what to do. So I'm like, I need to, And she said she was scared, and it's like I was upset, and it's like I don't know what to do. So I took her over to the hospital down in Massachusetts because I'm 6 hours away from home, and I'm like, look, I need somebody to look at my daughter because this is how I got her for my visit. And what happened is, and I told him, I said, call up my DCF worker in Vermont, and you can talk to her, because I thought the staff was not taking care of her. You would think that they would want to know that my daughter wasn't being watched and cared for. And they had security guards surrounding us. They had other people, and they called up 3 cops and said I kidnapped my daughter, and they got some people from Hillcrest to come get her, and said they have parental rights, I have no rights. And the doctor kept saying, you're frying your daughter's brain, you're frying your daughter's brain. You got her all upset bringing her to the hospital. And then they said, well, if you just calm down and calm your daughter down. At that point, my daughter's like, you're going to hurt my mom. Don't hurt my mom. She's just worried about me. Don't hurt my mom. And then they said that we could continue our visit at the school, and then they said, no, we're not going to let you visit with your daughter. So I went to the hotel, which is 6 hours from home, and I went to the hotel after my daughter saw me. Last time she saw me, I was with the police. And I went to the hotel, and I cried, and I cried. And my son called Hillcrest, because I had called him, and I was crying and upset. And he called me back, and he says, Mom, they sedated her. He says, I heard her screaming in the background, and they were sedating her.
Oh, my God. It sounds like to me they're turning her into a mental patient.
So I cried,
creating
and I cried, and I cried all the way home, and, it was horrible. I didn't, it's like, what do I do? But, and then she said she cried, and she says, what happened, Mom? Where were you? So she worried, and it's like, and so they ended my visits with her. So I'm not allowed to go down even to see her anymore. And then they're saying because I have a conflict with them, and I'm interfering with what they want to do to my daughter. And what my daughter says is, Mom, they want me to give up on you because I'm all messed up, and you should get on with your life. And they turned and said to me that I should let them take care of her because something could happen to me and I could die. This is
now, how
unbelievable.
How is a parent just supposed to say, okay, I give up. Here, you take my daughter. No problem. I'm done. I'm going to go live my life. How do you do that? How the hell do they expect you to do that?
They're saying that my daughter's this and my daughter's that and my daughter's ill and she's that. But when I take her on my visits, she can get her iPod out and she texts her friends like crazy, and she's my daughter until I have to drug her up. She's the second day I go down, she's starting to have a little bit of color to her because I'm feeding her. She says she's starving there. And, because on top of all this, I decided to put her on a diet, and they're like, I'm like, she's hungry. And they're like, well, she gets her minimum 1,200 calories a day.
1,200 calories a day is not enough.
You know, and then the fact that she's fighting and struggling and being on all these drugs, and then they were putting her on laxatives, and, you know, when I first went down, and
well, that'll
Mom,
dehydrate her.
I have diarrhea, and I said, listen, they have you on laxatives. Did you tell them that you're having this? And so I would take, you know, she says, Mom, they don't listen to me when I talk to them. I said, well, listen, me and you are going to go see the nurse, and we're going to tell her. And so we would do that, and they get angry at us. And then there'd be a report back to DCF. I went to the bathroom one day, and I got in trouble, and they threatened to take my visits away.
For going to the bathroom?
Well, I didn't know I wasn't allowed to. They said, sit here on the couch, and we'll go get Lissa. And I had driven down there 6 hours. You know, I raced down to get my daughter so I can get her, you know, out as fast as I could, so I spend time with her. And I asked the staff if I could use the restroom. And so they let me, and then it was written up, and it was back in the courtroom that I used the bathroom and I jeopardized the safety of the children. I've slept in my car.
Now, wait a minute. I want to back up here a minute. Now, here you are doing something you can't get any more natural than urinating or defecating. That's just part of life. You can't control that. That is something that all human beings do, all animals do. Every living creature does. Fish, I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. How the hell is going to the restroom of doing something you can't get any more natural? How are you affecting any child? How are you a threat to these children by going to the bathroom? What are you doing? I mean, that doesn't even make any sense to me.
They just come up with all these reasons why. You know, it's like, she's telling her not to take her meds, or she's telling her she's not sick. Why would I want to not give my daughter hope to have her life back? Why would I not want to give my daughter hope that she's coming home? Why would I not want to give my daughter hope that her mother's never going to stop loving her?
Exactly.
You know? And I would go down, and I would sleep in my car in the winter, because DCF didn't get my hotel room. I spent Easter weekend sleeping in my car 2 nights so I could be there for my daughter.
Unbelievable.
I had police come and wake me up and scare me. In Massachusetts, you're not supposed to sleep in your car. They don't have 24-hour McDonald's open where you can go in and warm up a little bit. And so I would have to drive around almost all night. So I wasn't hardly getting any sleep, and it's cold. And, you know, I would be in my car and it would be 25 degrees or 20 degrees, and I would be in the middle of a snowstorm just so I could see my daughter. And now they took my visits away.
I mean, this is just. I've never
been away from any of my children this long.
Now, your sons, they're part of your life, right? I mean, they're around. They help you out. Okay, that's good. That's very good right there. It sounds to me. Now, judging by all the time that we've talked, it sounds to me like you've done everything you can to just simply raise your child as best you can. You got your children. You're doing the best you can. You're a single mom, which is not easy. And I know that for a fact, that being a single parent is not easy.
I worry about my daughter. And my sister, 9 years ago, hung herself because of a mental illness. So, you know, it's hard.
Now, are they using that? Are they? I'm going to ask that because, see, a lot of times they do that. Like, you know, mental illness in the family. Like, say you have a crazy old uncle who's a mental patient. They'll use that against you because they'll think that just because
they're saying we're paranoid. They're saying we're paranoid. We don't trust them. Therefore, they can't work with us, and we're afraid that they're out to get us. Yeah. My daughter's locked up.
Now, your daughter was never homeschooled, right? She went to regular public school.
No.
Just your sons that were homeschooled.
My daughter was homeschooled, so she's she always knows. She's always been around me, and now it's like they just wiped her right out of me out of her life.
Right, and that's got to be stress enough.
And she can
stress
talk
enough
to
on
me
you,
on the
but
phone.
stress enough on her.
She can talk to me on the phone, but they're writing down everything we're saying. And she got mad at me one night because she told me her legs were cut up, and they didn't know. And then, you're losing your safe days. So she so it's like on this drug they got her on, it's causing her to self-harm. She's having blackouts and hallucinations, and they continued the drug. And my daughter says, "Mom, it's getting worse." And this is kind of a drug that you take, and it gets into your system more and more as you go along taking it. Mm-hmm. And she has to have her blood checked every week.
Now that's the clozapine, or what do they call that? What do they call that drug? Clozapine? Clozapine? Clozapine. Yeah. And they have to take her blood every week.
Yeah.
Right? Draw her blood to find out, I guess, to make sure that she's actually taking it. Is that what they're doing that for?
It says
to find out?
1 in 100 patients actually could have their white blood cell levels go down so low that they have to stop taking the drug. He has to take blood tests every week to just get the prescription every week for the drug. It says 1 in 20 to 30 people will have a seizure, blood pressure issues, respiratory issues.
I would imagine dizziness and heart disease, hypertension. These drugs they're very hard on the kidneys. They're very hard on everything, all of your organs. They're very difficult on your organs.
Muscle, she's drooling, paralysis, and intestinal muscles. I mean, and the judge, he says, well, it doesn't matter what we put her on, whatever drug she goes on, because she's going to have side effects. Yet, this is supposed to help with the hallucinations that she wasn't having. And then the doctor on the witness stand stated that he needed to up the drugs because he needs to get her more compliant because she wants to go home. And he wants to make her happy that she's used to living there.
Be comatose and just accept everything that they tell her to do. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that. She's a photographer. She does poetry. She does beading when she was home, and she can't do that there. And then they what can she do? What are activities?
They take her once a week now. This just started where they said, they had said it in the courtroom. I think it was in November after she's been there since February, that they're taking her once a week where she gets to go pet a horse.
Ooh.
They call it soothing therapy, where she goes and pets a horse. Yet she has a pony at home.
Look, I love petting horses. I love horses, but petting your horse.
She sleeps with her dogs at home. She doesn't get, these are comfort things to her that they ripped out from her. And then last week, her music box, her little music thing died. And she says, "Mom, I need that because it helps with the nightmares that I have here." She has nightmares that something's going to happen to me. And the other kid's screaming. So we had to scrape up money for a music box. And when DCF called me the other day saying I wasn't going down for my visit for Christmas that they had promised me, I haven't gone down to see my daughter for like 2.5 months now. And I said, well, you need to buy her a coat. She doesn't have a coat. And they're like, well, don't you have one for her? But they took her, and they need to be providing her with these services and take care of her. And that's not happening. I would go down, and she'd take off her shoe, and she says, look, and her foot would be infected. Another time, her her wrist was infected. She had fell and she scraped her wrist. And then they classified it as self-harm, and it wasn't self-harm. It was an accident. She fell. She was hiking and she fell. She did open up, a couple weeks later, she opened up the scab on it, and that was considered self-harm. So
unbelievable. So, I mean, I picked up my scabs all the time. I'm constantly getting hurt. I mean, you get me in the kitchen, I'm going to burn myself. And that's why I keep extra toothpaste around. I use toothpaste for, it's the greatest burn balm on planet Earth. Swear to God. You get burned, you just put a little bit of toothpaste on there, that white stuff, and I'm telling you, the burn goes away. So, I mean, I can't see how falling down, and I fall down, I'm a klutz. I was always a klutz. I've got a bad back. I've got bad knees. I can barely walk. And so I fall down quite a bit. That doesn't make me insane.
She never had any of these cuts. I mean, she was doing really good up until they gave her this drug. One time I went down to pick her up, and we went out and we ordered pizza, and the pizza lady brought the pizza and put it on the counter, and we didn't realize the tray was hot. And Alyssa burnt her hand, and she was like, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get in trouble. When I first went down to get her, she was afraid to leave the facility because she was afraid that she was going to get in trouble, and she would be shaken. And it's like, it's okay. We got permission to cross the street. The first time I went down, and they, I went down like 2 months or 3 months or so before they allowed us actually to leave the place and be by ourselves. And it was her birthday, and we were only allowed to go across the street where they had promised she could go to the movies with me. And then 2 weeks later, after her birthday, they let us go. Oh, you can take her and you can bring her back. I took her at like 10 o'clock in the morning, and you can bring her back at 7 tonight. And you can go to the next town if you want. And it's like me and Lissa looked at each other, and I said, I think they want us to escape.
Well,
it's like all of a sudden we're free. And so that was when we
maybe that was
did
like
our
a
first
trap.
video. Huh?
It sounds like it was a trap to get you to do that. Yeah, you know what I mean? And then they could say, well, you tried to steal your daughter, you did this, and now you're never going to see her. Yeah, I know
now they're using that now as an excuse because I don't want her on this drug. And it's like, well, gee, why is this drug so that I should be so against it if it's so best for my daughter? And why is it all of a sudden, when she started taking this drug, all of a sudden they don't want me around, they don't want me to know what she's on, and everything's secretive, they're calling it a trial drug. No one's even, and it's like I said, Alyssa, how can it be a trial drug if no one's even asking you if you're having headaches or hallucinations or anything like that? Because they don't want to hear it, and she's afraid to tell them, and she says, Mom, when I tell them, they get angry.
Well,
and then I'm telling her to tell them stuff that's not true. And it's like, wait a minute here. I mean, if you're going to have my daughter hostage, you might as well help her. And then they're saying that because she was homeschooled, at least now she's in a school. Because it's a school. They call it a school. They're licensed for a school.
Yeah, you don't get educated in school anymore. Let me tell you that right now. You do not get educated.
And sitting at a desk from 9 to 3, and they get funding. They got her on an IEP. They got her on an IDEA. They got her, and so they got her sitting there. And then she says, Mom, they want me to take tests, but they took my glasses and they got me all drugged up.
So she wears glasses. She
has reading glasses. She didn't need them until she went in.
Right.
When she started going on these drugs, then she needs the glasses.
Do you know the hormone drugs? Do you know the actual drug that's causing her hormones to change? Because that right there, that infuriates me right there. That right there is a crime.
They took her off. It started with a P. Here it is. It's PERPHENAZINE. Prepazine.
So it's PERP.
Schizine. They took her off from that, put her on the Seroquel, and it's like they don't gradually lower the drug and then put her on the Seroquel. They started the Seroquel at 600 milligrams. My kid she said she was having nightmares where she was seeing herself kill herself in the dreams.
Whoa.
And she's like, you need to lower this drug. And they're like, you'll get used to it. You'll get used to it.
Oh, yeah, you'll get used to it. Yeah, let me put you on it and see if you get used to it. These jerks. Well, so she's no longer on the hormone drugs, right?
No.
Okay, has she gotten her period back?
A little bit.
Okay,
but
so it just kind of...
Now they're to the point where they don't want her talking to me about... They don't want her really talking to me about anything. They don't want me to remind her of home. They don't want me to talk about DCF or them. They don't want her to talk to me about her care, what's actually really going on. And then they threaten us on everything that we say or don't say over the telephone. So each time I call her, I never know if it's the last time. And I really have to know my kids are safe each night I go to bed.
Oh, I mean, this is just. I mean, what they're doing to your daughter. I mean, it's just.
And our crime was going to the hospital. Because what I found out later with research, because they're like, well, you need to learn how to take care of your daughter to get her home. But they weren't giving me any information. They weren't telling me what's going on with my daughter. They weren't telling me what they thought was going on. They weren't even talking to me. So I had to go on the Internet, and I spent 9 months on the Internet learning about schizophrenia and bipolar and hearing voices. And when I found out that the drugs aren't helping, it's the fact that you need to have family, you need to de-stress, you need to live your life as normal as possible and not have all this disruption and stuff. And it's like break my daughter's heart and stress her out and make her, she said, she thinks of home more and more, and she thinks, she's like, a couple weeks ago, she was, Mom, they're never going to let me out of here. I might as well just give up. And it's like, I'm on the phone calming my daughter down so she doesn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And the thing is I don't know if they're ever going to let her out. I don't know what's going on. And I don't know if she could have a seizure or a heart attack or who knows what happens. And it's horrible.
Now, there's no doctor on this facility, right?
What?
There's no doctor at this facility. It's just a school. There's no doctor.
He comes once a month.
Once a month. Oh.
Once a month, and the coalition there doesn't even have a license.
So here, this person is. They're claiming that your daughter is schizophrenic. She's a mental patient, but they have no doctor. Now that makes a lot of sense to me. That makes a lot of sense to me. Here you have someone a young girl, 17 years old. They are claiming is schizophrenic. She's got all these mental problems, but yet they don't give her a doctor. They give her drugs. Who's giving the drugs to her? Who's giving the drugs? Is it a doctor that gives?
He comes once a month. Lisa says he sees her for maybe 5-10 minutes. And he tells her how she's going to be there for a long time, that she needs to get used to this is her life now. And when I go down...
Who actually gives her the drugs every night? Is it one of the school teachers?
The nurse. It's like a
nurse.
School nurse, and she gives the drugs out, and then at 7 o'clock, and she leaves at 8 o'clock. And then,
is it a registered nurse, or is it...
I don't know for sure.
I guarantee you it's probably not.
She gives the kids the drugs, and then she leaves, and then the staff, they have a night staff that gets 22 hours of training to work there.
Oh, 22 whole hours. Oh, my God.
So they, and it's like my son said, they look like they're foreign, and they look like they're under 25 years old.
Well, yeah.
And so they watch TV with the kids.
See, that right there, when they're giving out these drugs, and these drugs first of all, these are powerful drugs and they're dangerous, and they should not be allowing somebody who is not a medical doctor administer these drugs. I mean, that's a crime right there.
And
that is a crime right there.
So Lissa goes in her bedroom and she's alone when all this stuff is going on.
Now, does she have any friends at this school?
She felt like she was restrained to the bed and having nightmares. And I can tell you, if she was home, she wouldn't be having nightmares by herself. I would be in there with her. And when I would go down for a visit, she would sleep in the bed with me. And she when she had a nightmare, she would wake up, she would hold my hand, and we would go back to sleep together. Right. And she said she had less nightmares when she was with me, and she was more calmer when she was with me when we would go have our visits at the hotel and have our sleepovers.
Does she? I mean, does she have any? Has she made any friends at this school? I mean, does she spend most of her time by herself?
She is, because I have adult children and she's the baby of the family. She's used to being around older people,
right?
And so, and a lot of the kids there, they got emotional problems.
Right.
And they come and go. Some of them come and go. And there's a couple boys there I told Lissa not to get near because they fly off the handle and go nuts. You know, they pick things up, throw things. I guess Jesse went and smashed out the windows in the school. So I'm like, you know, you can say nice and don't get too close to them, I told her. Because you don't know. It's like, you know, you just want to keep your distance a little bit. And then, you know, some kids come, some kids go. There was a girl there, Lissa said she ate something that looked like fake snow in the classroom, and she had to go to the hospital for 4 days. And Lissa said she told the girl something another girl told her, Lissa. And Lissa said she got in trouble because she told this girl what this other girl said, you know, how that works with kids, you know, so-and-so's called you this or that. So then, you know, they got, you know, found out Lissa said something to her, so Lissa got in trouble, and in the meantime, my daughter's worried about this child, you know, that hasn't come back for 4 days. So when I went down, she says, Mom, she hasn't come back, and they said it's my fault. And it's like, it's not your fault, Lissa, you know. They're supposed to be keeping an eye on you guys. And then there was one child they lost, and Lissa says she was lost for an hour. They didn't even know she left. She went across the street to the store across the street, and they didn't even know she was gone. So it's, you know,
now, I want to get into this whole. Your daughter's going to turn 18 on July 1st, so she's got about 7 months, 8 months, whatever it is.
6.5.
Yeah. But they're telling you they want to keep her there at this particular facility until she is 22.
Yeah,
there
was another girl that kept her until she was 22. They're saying she's making it out like my daughter is so ill. Yeah, I don't see it. You know, and she went to my sister's house for 2 days and had 2 nights at my sister's house, and my sister said she was fine. She went with my mother has taken her, you know, shopping, and she, you know, because she went to my sister's for a weekend or 2 days. It was during court time because she had to come down for court, which is like, oh, we'll let my sister have visit, but it was court times, which is stressful. Mm. And my mom said she didn't even have her own clothes, so my mom took her out and bought her clothes before she sent her back. And then she got back there, and they said, well, we don't want to have her have overnights anymore because she feels safe here, and when she comes back, she acts up.
Oh, she acts up. Oh, yeah, because she wants to be home. I would act up, too. I mean, my God. I mean, these people are just, I mean, look, I can't tell you how many crimes. I can tell you right now that this particular facility has committed. One, of having these drugs administered to her by someone who is obviously not even a registered nurse should not be administering these drugs. These drugs need to come from a medical doctor, shouldn't they? They shouldn't even be on the market. That's my personal opinion. I can't.
Well, if you read that letter from that doctor, it said that this was not even FDA approved, and it definitely wasn't approved for children, and the mother didn't approve it, and he questioned whether or not the child had agreed to take the drug. And
well, see, this is what it is. None of these drug trials, have a drug.
Put her on one
approved.
drug, take her off. Put her on another drug, take her off. And then every time that doctor would go in there, he would either up the drug, put her on a different drug, add this drug, take this one away, add that one. And it's like, how do you know if a drug actually works if you keep playing this juggling game?
Yeah, they're using your daughter as a lab rat, and they do this to literally. There are at least,
and they're messing her up just to keep her.
Right, and they're trying to brainwash her into turning her against you. So
they want her to be brainwashed to the point where she actually believes she's practically a vegetable. Where she can't function, she can't think, she can't do anything without them saying that she can or not. She isn't even allowed her mail. People sent her birthday cards. Everybody from my church sent birthday cards to her, and she only got one.
Oh my God! And I was going to ask.
And all they were is just simple birthday cards. We're thinking about you, Lisa. We love you. It's simple, no harm in it. And she didn't.
Well,
she don't
because they don't want her to get homesick, and they want to keep her.
They don't want her to have
like
any hope. They don't want these
right.
kids to actually think that somebody actually cares for them.
Mm-hmm.
No,
like, that's exactly what they're doing.
We're taking care of you. Get over it. This is your life.
Yeah, this is your life. You're a stoned up mess, and you sit in the corner over there in a coma and don't move and don't speak and don't say anything. Don't do anything and don't bother me. The Kim Kardashian show is on. Don't just stay over there and shut up. That's what they're trying to do. These people, I'm telling you. I mean,
we have more rights in jail.
Yes, I mean, Guantanamo Bay. These people in Guantanamo Bay have more rights than these kids have in foster care, in these hospitals, and in these facilities. Now, that just doesn't even make sense.
Then they told her, well, you can't be a photographer. And it's like, I've never told my children they couldn't be something when they grew up.
Now, what the hell does being a photographer have to do with anything? How was that going to be... How was that going to be harmful to her? Taking pictures?
Well, I don't know. I know that some of the drugs they have her on causes this thing like Parkinson's disease where you have shakes. And
right.
Even when she gets off the drugs, she may have that as permanent damage.
Well, yeah.
So, but they're like, oh, well, you can't make any money at being a photographer. And then I can't even figure out. First, they're saying they're going to bring her back to Vermont. She's going to go to a group home in Washington County. Then they said they're going to put her in Brattleboro. Then they said that she's going to go to Laraway. Then they said that they're going to send her to St. Albans. In the meantime, they're not doing anything. And then for some strange reason, the DCF woman says to me, how about we get you an apartment in Underhill? And I'm like, why am I getting an apartment in Underhill? Lisa's in Massachusetts, and there's no facility or a day school anywhere near Underhill. So why am I moving to Underhill? And she says, well, we'll pay for it. We'll pay for you to have an apartment in Underhill. And I'm like, but I have a house.
Well, they want to take. Well, the reason why is they want to take away your private property. That's what it is. You've got private property.
And then what happens if my daughter's actually not actually sick like they're saying they are? If she comes back to Vermont, because Vermont we have signed a contract with Obamacare that we get a certain amount of money in the state of Vermont to reduce the drugs. You lower the drug use, the prescription drugs, and they gave the state a percentage of money to help people more with therapy instead of drugs.
I mean, this is just.
You see what I mean?
I mean, this is just. This doesn't. There are certain things my brain just cannot process, man. And
then we finally got our second opinion, like last week. And Lisa actually spent more time with that psychiatrist than she has with this doctor in the whole time she's been down there. And they actually called me up on the phone and talked to me for an hour and 10 minutes on what my daughter's like and what she loves and how she was before she got ill. And not one of these people has done that.
Now, you do have, we're running a little bit out of time, but that's all right. You do have a hearing coming up on January 9th, correct?
Yes, it's a permanency hearing and a child support hearing.
Now, what is that hearing really over? Is that to permanently take away your rights as a parent? Is that what they're really trying to do?
They don't seem to tell me. And then I didn't sign the case plan, and they're like, because the case plan is like, just do whatever we want, agree to whatever we want. The school and DCF will make the decisions on your child. And I'm like, well, Lissa and me should be involved in this case plan and planning the case plan. And the DCF woman looked at me and said, it doesn't matter. The judge is going to do whatever we want.
Right. This is another problem.
Said,
I can't figure out how. We've got the police, we've got judges, we've got politicians, we've got doctors. Everybody is afraid of the CPS, and I don't understand that. How the DCF, CPS, it depends on what state you are. It's all the same thing. Child Protective Services. Why everybody is so afraid of this? Child family services. I don't understand it. I don't understand how these people got that much power. These are like the Gestapo. They can come into any home at any time and take away your kid, and they say we don't need a warrant, and they don't. And they take the kid. They even get a police officer to physically remove the child from the mother's arms. I've seen the video, so I know that they're true. This is what I don't understand. This doesn't even make. This is beyond bizarre.
So then I asked her about my visits with Lissa. I said, why are you hurting Lissa? Because I freaked out and panicked and took her to the hospital because I was like, my God, I never saw my daughter in that bad a shape before. And she goes, well, I don't see it as a punishment for Alyssa. And then they promised me that I would be able to go down and see my daughter for Christmas so I could bring her presents to her. And they ended up, they didn't have time to figure that out for me to go.
We don't have time.
But I found out today that after not seeing my daughter for 2 months, almost 2.5 months, that since they put her on the clozapine, the DCF guy has not been down to see my daughter, and he went down today to bring her a present.
Oh, well, that's awful nice of him. Oh,
probably a coat. And I told her that she needed one. It's like
so when is going to be? Do you have any idea when the next time you'll be able to actually physically see your daughter?
Probably, maybe in court, maybe not. What they're going to do is they're going to go to court and they're going to say how my daughter's doing so well without me. And what I was told from the lady that's supposed to do her. They wanted me to have an hour visit a month now when it was 97.
Oh, an hour a month? Oh, gee, that's awful generous.
And I was told by this woman that she says she's neutral, but she said that she talked to DCF and they said that I'm to get Lissa to I need to understand and believe and get Lissa to believe that it's not the drugs that's making her sick, but it's her illness, and that she needs to be institutionalized.
Oh.
But get this, she only needs to be institutionalized until she's 21, 22, when the Medicaid runs out.
Right, and then what they do is they just send you out on the street. Now, here's what happens. Here's a lot of problem. Now, hopefully you're still around, and hopefully your boys are still around. But a lot of times this happens, and they take the kids away, and depending on what state you're in, it could be 18, it could be 21. In this case, it's 22. It looks like. And once the money runs out, guess what happens? The kid is on the street by themselves, and they are homeless. And if they don't have a family, they don't have a mother, they don't have a father, they don't have anybody. They're stuck on their own. And what happens? The only thing they're going to end up in is in jail. I mean, I don't understand how what their reasoning is behind this, why they can't figure this stuff out. If little old me can figure this stuff out.
Her friends are going on with their lives. Her childhood friends that she has had throughout her childhood are going on with their lives. So when Lisa finally gets out of there, if she has to be in there all these years, it's like it's going to be so, like everybody's just gone on with their lives, and Lisa is just picking her life up because basically all they're doing is drugging and warehousing her.
Yeah. Well, what they're doing is they're milking her for as much money as they can. They've got her on a drug trial, which they're probably getting money from the pharmaceutical industry. They're getting money from the federal government, the state government. Now, do they
were
make
dying
you pay?
To get my daughter. This was their biggest revenge to come after me.
Mm-hmm. And they're now do they make you pay? Do they make you pay child support? A lot of times they make the parent pay child support. They take the child away and make the parent.
They sent the thing that they want my ex-boyfriend to pay them $62,000 for all the back child support he owes. Mm-hmm.
Now, is that her father?
He was born all the way up through.
Is that her actual biological father?
Yes.
Okay, and they want him to pay the $62,000. Now he's gone. He's out of the state. He has no.
He lives in Massachusetts or Maine. He lives in Maine.
But does he have any communication with your daughter at all?
He was Facebooking her back and forth. When we got Facebook when she was 13, she started Facebooking him on the internet, and she found him on the internet, and so.
But does she have any kind of a relationship with him at all, other than just Facebook? Basically just Facebook. Yeah, just Facebook. He has a warrant in the state of Vermont. He never paid his debt, so he does. He owes some fines, and instead of just paying the fines, he doesn't come back to the state. Right, and there was a restraining order on him a while back, so he's pretty much staying out of the picture as much as possible. It sounds to me like he could care less. I mean, if a real father would do everything he could to make sure that his daughter was doing all right, whether they
I actually talked to him tonight, so I talked to him, and he's a product of the foster system. And so he's got
Yeah, that's another thing right there is
deal with it too.
Right. If you're a foster child, you're in foster care. You are in foster care. You think you get out at you're 18? No, you're in that system for life. And if you're a young woman and you get out of foster care and you get pregnant and you have a baby, that baby's not yours. That baby is a DCF's, and they take babies, and they do that all the time. Right? They won't even let the mother breastfeed the child immediately out of the womb. That is disgusting. That is wrong, and there's no reason for it, and there's no excuse for it. Once you become a victim of the DCF, you're there for life. They've got you for life. This is stuff that the Nazis did. We are Americans. We don't do this. We don't do
Well,
this.
I can't judge her father, because I never lived in his shoes. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like, and I think that he may have wanted to be there in her life. It just was hard for him to be there.
Well, he was probably abused and treated very poorly too.
Yeah.
Being in DCF care, I can't imagine that he wasn't.
So
I
didn't have a problem. I mean, we got by. My children were happy. My daughter's favorite thing was playing in the mud and playing with the frogs and coloring her dogs with, watercolor magic markers and dressing up puppies. That was Alyssa's childhood. Going to the swimming hole and going in her little boat. And this is the way it is. This is horrible. This is nothing I would have imagined my child to be treated.
This story just infuriates me the more we talk about it. I swear to God. We are running out of time, Karen. Look, I really appreciate you coming on here. It takes a lot to come out here and talk about this stuff. And I really appreciate every single one of these parents that have come on this show. I really appreciate them coming on here and being brave enough to talk about this. And again, I would love, I don't want to get your daughter in trouble, but it would be really nice to hear from her. And thank God that she's brave enough to make these videos. And please keep posting those. The people need to see, they need to hear from the actual victim instead of hearing from the parent and hearing from me and hearing from everybody else. Isaiah Ryder, he's done a couple of videos too, and there's more of them out there. They're watching his legs shake.
What I noticed is with the two sisters, Justine Pereira.
Yes, I've had her. I've had them on the show here too.
And Melissa, they're all causing them more pain. And more trauma, and more heartache. Mm-hmm. We have 475,000 kids.
Yep.
Give or take, ward of the state.
Exactly. I hate that word, ward of the state. I hate that word. I can't tell you how much I hate that word. And yes, I've had Melissa Deagle on here with her two daughters. They took, what the foster care parent did? They didn't like the fact that the only way that these girls actually can eat is with a feeding tube. They can't, their stomachs are paralyzed. They cannot digest food. So the only way that they can eat is with a feeding tube. Well, they are messy. Well, the foster parent didn't like the fact that these feeding tubes were messing up her house, so they removed them. So these daughters are literally starving to death because the foster care parent.
Lisa has had stomach problems since she's got there. They said she didn't have a stomach problem, and then I pointed out, why is she on stomach medication if she doesn't have a stomach problem?
Yeah. It's all in her head. It's all make-believe. It's all this. It's all that. Yeah. I've heard these stories so many times. These people just make me furious.
These DCF people went home. They're having their Christmas.
Oh, sure they are.
The week off.
Oh, they're having a great time. They're sitting around. They're roasting chestnuts, and they've got the turkey in the oven. Boy, they're having a great time, eating cookies, drinking eggnog. Oh, they're celebrating, having a wonderful time. I hope they all have a Merry frickin' Christmas.
Watching something on TV with the staff.
I mean, that's just... So what is she going to do on Christmas?
Well, more than likely, half the kids are going home to their families.
What is she going to do?
Sit there. When I was there for Easter, they said that they were going to do something with the kids for Easter and take them outside for an Easter egg hunt. And I had driven around to see if these children were outside playing, looking for their Easter hunt, and it never happened. The staff decided they didn't want to bother. But if you're stuck in a facility and that's all you have, and the staff doesn't want to bother?
I mean, this is just...
It's
are you going to be... Would you be able to contact her on Christmas or give her a call on the phone, at least talk to her?
I'm allowed to call her at 7:30 at night, which every time I call, pretty much they don't answer the phone. And they will only let me call her after she's been medicated. So she's already starting to be sedated. So she's starting to not feel good. So she's only on the phone with me for a little time. Mom, I don't feel good. I got to go lay down.
That is just sick,
and then, and it's horrible because it's like she is fighting so hard to come home. And if she refuses those drugs, she says, Mom, there's no refusing. They will force them on me. She says, I have no right here.
You know, I've only got a little over a minute and a half here. I want to get in contact with you tomorrow. I've got a lady, a reporter. I want to take your story and see if we can't get another story put on there. It's very difficult to get a hold of this woman. She's got a million stories that are backlogged, but your story right here needs to get out. I'm going to put this on YouTube. I'm going to blast this out as much as possible. My God, and we haven't even gotten to all of it yet. This is what is just absolutely scary.
Of court papers and newspapers, and I have videos, and I have, according to my son, 4 feet of journals that I write. I fill a notebook every month of all the stuff that goes on in our life, and it's unbelievable. In fact, when my daughter went in there and she was telling them the stories of what they've done to us, they didn't believe her. And then they said, wait a minute, why is your son saying the same stuff your daughter is, because we classify her as schizophrenic and paranoid, when her stories are so unbelievable? And it's like, would you like to see the newspaper clippings? Would you like to see the readings? Would you like to see the pictures?
Every one of these stories are unbelievable. The problem is they're real. That's the problem.
Like 8 full-size pictures of me on the front page of newspapers, yet the sex offender gets a little tiny picture.
Yeah.
That teased me off. It's like, hey, you want to put me all out on the front of the picture because what? And you just get a little tiny print picture of the sex offender? Something's major wrong there.
All right, girl. I want to continue this conversation, but they're going to cut me off. I've only got 30 seconds. I really appreciate you, Karen, coming on this program. We definitely have to keep in contact. You contact me anytime. If there's something I can do to help you out, you damn Skippy, I will. And tell your daughter I'm fighting for her. Tell her, give her everything. Give her my love. Is what you need to do.
Yeah, I got to fight for my kids. I got to do it to my last breath, because if I don't, nobody else is going to.
So, all right, they're going to cut me off in 5 seconds. They're going to cut me off. I really appreciate it, Karen, and thanks everybody for listening, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night at 8. Goodbye, everybody.
God bless.